I'm Valerie, and you're listening to the Hey Love podcast. We know just what it's like to have a queer and woman-owned small business team. After all, we're Hey Love Studio.
Here, we'll be sharing our tips and tricks of what we have learned over a few years running a small business.
Whether it's a marketing strategy or how to get new clients or how to even just treat the clients you already have better, we're going to let you in on all the little secrets that make our team successful.
So join us along while we untap topics to make sure you shine and hype your clients up and pay those bills. Well, welcome back everyone to another episode for Hey Love Studio. I'm very excited today to share just experiences from a best friend of mine. They've modeled for us. They have been in front of our camera numerous times, and they are also a pretty cool person in the sense of they are a trauma-informed mental health counselor, which is insane. Everyone, clap your hands. Say hi. Chrissy, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we're just going to dive deep into this. Like I told Chrissy, I've never really done an interview style thing, and honestly, I'm super excited that you are here because I feel like you have experienced so much more in the wedding industry, and as a person who wanted to get married, but as a non-binary. Well, at that time, did you identify as non-binary?
It was the start of the process, so I started out as she, they, but I still identified as non-binary.
Yeah. So it was pretty much still part of your identity. I remember I was going to look for suits for you, which was incredible. I didn't have that experience, even though I look like this now. With my wedding, I was in a dress. So it was really amazing to see how you, as a non-binary person, and obviously we're going to talk more about it, but in my experience, what I saw, what you went through is a lot of like just living out your truth with your partner, you know, with Abigail, your now wife, which is incredible. And I was very lucky to have shared that. But as a friend, obviously, I didn't know how it felt behind the scenes.
In a lot of ways, it still doesn't feel affirming, mostly because I think just with the wedding industry in general, there's still that binary that's there with specifically bride and groom. Like they very much like separate it as like one person's the bride, one person's the groom. And that was the feeling that I got throughout the wedding experience. Like there were some little moments where it felt affirming, but for the most part, it still was kind of like, all right, we're kind of navigating a stereotypical binary wedding experience. Like I actually started out planning to have a wedding dress. Like I had picked one out, I had ordered it and everything. And it wasn't until like maybe a few months into wedding planning that I realized like, oh, that's right. Like I'm allowed to be myself. Like I don't have to go with what's expected of by the people around me. I can actually figure this out for myself and figure it out. Like who do I want to be? How do I want to present the day of my wedding? And so that actually led to me like looking for a suit and going to just try it on. I will say that was actually one of the most affirming things about the wedding journey is because I just happened to find the tailor at the suit store. He was like, oh yeah, I know what this does. I know how to do this. I've worked with non-binary people before, and just based on how body shapes are, how to make a suit look good for anyone. And so that was...
And you did look good.
Oh, thanks. And so I was like, that was a really affirming experience to have that. But yeah, I think interestingly enough, the least affirming part, and just to clarify for your podcast, you weren't our photographers. So this is just the wedding photographer specifically, but that was actually the least affirming part because they were the ones that kept so tightly to the bride and groom, and specifically like female bride and male groom kind of mentality, to the point that even when I was trying to space out the time for photographs, it seemed to throw them off a lot. Of like Abigail's a she, her, female, I'm a they, them, non-binary, but like they knew they were coming to a queer wedding. We had mentioned that our bridal party was a joint bridal party, but it felt like they were like still trying to hold on to these traditional kind of ways of what a wedding should be.
As one does with wedding planning, I think there happens so much behind the scenes that it's only when you have these conversations that you realize how different everyone's journey is. I would love to dive more into the fact that you were like, yeah, everything was actually still very binary, because like for me it's so funny. I need to force myself to make these like podcasts and reels about red flags and vendors, and one would be the language they use. As I'm saying it, I can't really always imagine how can you not use non-binary language? It's come so natural to us because I think we're fortunate to be in the queer community. It's almost like a moment of awakening that I'm like, dang, there's so much we still need to do within the wedding industry, and how much I want to just say straight people, and just hear me out. Straight people just oblivious and don't even necessarily. Is it wrong to say try? Because it sounds like you and Abigail did say, "Hey, we're queer.
Mm-hmm.
We are two females
Mm-hmm.
marrying each other." I know you're non-binary, but for a straight human, what is that? And it's insane to know that even with your wedding, that you had vendors that I'm a bit flawed, like knowing that you even tried to like work with your photographer, that they would still stick to the traditional norms that I know afterwards, that your wedding photos, you were not necessarily, I don't want to put words on you, but did you like your wedding photos?
I liked some of them. There were a lot of them that were just unfortunate and they didn't capture what we really wanted. They did a really good job on the dancing photos and moving around photos and family photos or candid photos. I think it was especially the pictures of Abigail while she was getting ready and some of them while I was getting ready. But I think it was those that we were like, man, there was like something special that we wanted there and it felt like we didn't get that.
I want to really dive into photography because obviously that's our speciality, but I want to talk quickly about just other vendors. Like, did you have any issues with people understanding your pronouns or your relationship within the venue space, or was it just mainly the photographers that you struggled with?
I think there's also, and I think the way you described it is kind of an oblivious feeling with either allied or even different vendors. Because I think about it how like the venue that we had the traditional setup of like, this is the bride's room. And it was
Yeah.
like this luxurious, not luxurious, but a good size room where it has
Yeah.
everything that they need. And then they're like, and here's the groom's room. It's like a closet that they just kind of made into a room.
Yeah.
Even I just think about like, I'm sure there's grooms out there that want like an actual room as a groom's room. But I think about just how even the way things are set up automatically that way. I think what comes to my mind is almost this very innocent ignorance that people have, like almost in a sense of they truly want to be allies. They truly want to be people that are there for the queer community. And I think in some ways they're probably trying, but they just don't recognize that maybe they're not doing the things that they could be doing better.
Abigail and us went to venue space together. I don't know if you remember this, but I mean, we walked in and it was clearly a bridal room and the groom room, and it's even labeled on the door. And I'm like, why do we need to label rooms, first of all? It could just be a get ready room. There's no necessary need for that. But also the masculinity and the feminine energy in both was so different. And I was like, we can make it just a beautiful, aesthetic, pleasing space in general and keep it as simple as possible to feel more included. What shocked me afterwards is the fact that we then asked, and we were like, hey, so we noticed that there's a lot of binary languages here. Do y'all ever host a queer wedding? And they were like, yeah. And we're like, okay, cool. So where's the photos of that? And why is there none out? And then bonus, what do we do about these getting ready rooms? Because clearly that is a fixed feature. And instead of the manager actually addressing the issue, she started talking how proud she is that her daughter is also lesbian. She's an ally because her daughter is a lesbian. And I was like, just because you know a queer person doesn't mean that you are actually doing allyship that you need to do. Um, so it's very interesting. I know you chose your wedding venue because it was near your family, right?
Yes, yeah.
And you've toured quite a few places, correct?
We did. We toured. There were a couple that we toured specifically. A lot of our touring was just online based and kind of looking at the different spaces that we wanted to see. But we kind of narrowed it down to just like a few that we saw in person.
Yeah. Is there anything you wish that y'all could have done differently? Or even just the vendors? Like if you were talking to vendors now afterwards, what would you ask them or say to them as pro tips working with a non-binary person?
I would say, like, I think I would really look at kind of like you said, like with the language of that binary and really just seeing how, I guess the word that comes to mind is flexible, how flexible they would be with, even though I'm a mass presenting non-binary, that doesn't put me automatically in this groom role. Like, it's just, this is who I am. I'm getting married to my spouse, like my future spouse. And so even just using the language of spouse and spouse instead of
Yeah.
like bride and groom, and just even simple things like that. And so I think just giving more freedom to be like I can understand why they have set things of, okay, we're going to have bridal parties and then groom parties, but it's like, okay, is there that option to, oh, these are together, and kind of looking more at that.
Yeah, we say wedding party. And to be honest, I do sometimes slip up and say bridal party. And I realize even in the bridal party group, there might be people who do not even identify as in the role of bridesmaid, you know?
Mhm.
Some people are not bridesmaids, they're brides people. So for me, we practice a lot saying wedding party, and then we honestly try to learn their names, because then you also have a name to it. It's not just someone in the wedding party. Do you remember signing contracts and stuff? Did it have bride and groom in it?
It did, yeah. Some of them did, or especially the the photographer one. I was like, I guess, well, I guess so.
And this is the thing though, right? I know
Mhm.
that you're trying to say, hey, there are certain things that make sense, but they would use these words, blah, blah, blah. Queen, it's so easy to edit a contract. It's so easy. Like, and it's so easy to even do these things in a way that you don't have to use any pronouns.
That
You
is
can
very
just say
true. Yeah.
you can just say client. It doesn't have to even be newlyweds. I usually say soon to be newlyweds. As a non-binary person, this is what I'm hearing from you, and you can please tell me if I'm wrong. I'm hearing a lot that you had to sort of tell yourself that it is what it is.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Mhm.
I think it's sad because, like, it isn't what it is. You are so worthy of the same celebratory language and spaces and vibes and energy in your own way. It doesn't have to come at the expense of being, oh, but they just don't know how to do this. Or that's what the industry tells us, you know? So I'm really sorry that you had to experience that. Obviously, I always wish that we were your vendors, but I'm so happy we could be guests, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
Because that was important to have that, like, just experience. It was y'all wedding, despite what everything happened behind the scenes. It was beautiful. I have a question though. I'm gonna go on
Okay.
a light tonight. How did you find your person for your suit? Because that suit was banger. We walked in there was no weird vibes, there was no judgments. They tailored it to a T, and you looked so great. How did you find a vendor like that in a space where clearly it's not easy?
I feel like it's one of those, both fortunately and unfortunately, I got really lucky. I actually had a friend of mine that went to this place to also get a suit.
Yeah.
And so they were like, here is their card. Here's who you should talk to. And so I made an appointment with them. And yeah, it was as affirming as they said it was. And so I was really excited to have that experience. But I know that that's probably not all of people's experiences going into a suit store like that.
Do you want to give them a shout out? Do you want to tell people where they are just in case someone else is looking for a tailor that wants to get a suit?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I feel bad. I forgot their name, but they are at the ISW Menswear in Mesquite.
The non-binaries listening, or even if you're like more femme and want to wear a suit, yeah, Mesquite is the way to go. And we maybe pop it into the description. People can find it because seriously, it's so hard. I even know a friend of ours, and you've met them, Ashley. They wanted to wear a suit, and they had to go through lengths to get a suit, and I think they ended up needing to get a suit from New York.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and it was a whole thing for them. It was a whole thing. I think they had to ship it twice, make sure that stuff is good. Was it really hard to find even just queer vendors in general in your area? And would you have wished that there were more? And what was the drawbacks? Just generally speaking, where's the queer people?
I feel like we found a pretty good area. And I think what's beneficial is that Round Rock is really close to Austin, which I've always felt very, just in my opinion, very queer friendly. And so a lot of our venues, it felt like, even if they were still, kind of like you said, there's still the language there, it feels like there was still that, like, oh, of course, we're going to accept this queer
Yeah.
couple. And even some of our vendors just were really nice about that and really good about that. We just went to HEB to get some cookies for our desserts, but we got specifically a gluten-free like brownie for me and Abigail to share together, and found like a little bakery in Round Rock that was really great about.
I love that. Basically, I want to ask you how you made sure that you felt like yourself on the wedding day, other than your suit. What represented your non-binariness? Like, I mean, there's such a role out there that a bride is a bride, and it's like white dress, beautiful makeup, a hairdo up, you've got your bouquet in the middle. I'm just curious, what was your thought thinking, and how did you get to from a dress? Because you said you wanted to wear a dress in the beginning because that's how you felt you should be represented, to being like, oh, I actually want to wear a suit, and then becoming more comfortable within who you are and how that represented more and more who you are.
I feel like on the day of the wedding, I know it might sound weird, but I feel like it just was me and Abigail being very intentional about like, what do we want to do on our wedding day? Like, what are the traditional things that we're like, that doesn't really matter to us. And so I think about even just like how there are certain ways that we just even started the day. Like we started the day together and then we separated to get ready. And then we decided like, we're going to have our own first look, and our first look is going to be the way we want it to be. And so I think it's little things like that that were exciting, and even being able to be like, yeah, these are the things we want to do, or these are the ways that we want to make sure that our wedding party is a part of this and knows that it's not just this Abigail's part of the wedding party and my part, but it's like we're all in this together. I think that was really, really what stood out to me, is how we were like, we want to be together on this, and that's what we're going to do for the whole day. So it just felt natural to not have that separation and to not have to feel like there's a certain role that I have to play.
Yeah. And then obviously wearing your suit, what was the transition? I just need to, like, I want to know your friend. So here's the thing. I was very femme, right? And I think Valerie planted the seed that I don't have to be this particular person. So it started off with me just stop, like, chemically straightening my hair. That's it. That was a seed that was planted, and I was like, you can have your natural curls.
Mm-hmm.
But then once I was allowed to be myself, I realized, oh, I just want to look like Harry Styles. I just want to be a little boy without being a boy. And it just happened. And I wonder, did you have a moment like that when you went from a suit to a dress and you were like, hey, I'm not a bride. I'm a non-binary person who's getting married to my best friend and the love of my life. Do you remember a moment like that with Abigail, even just yourself?
Honestly, it probably was a moment where I was just like laying on the couch, and kind of like you said, where Valerie was like, oh, you don't have to be this. I think it was also Abigail. She had chipped away, I think, because she has seen it a lot more than me, of like, you don't need to be this femme person, this female, like you can be who you are. And I think it was probably just one day on the couch, I think I said something about like, I think I want to wear a suit to our wedding. And I'm pretty sure Abigail's reaction was like, okay, good, because I was wondering why you were wanting to wear a dress. She knew. I think it was actually because, interestingly enough, also going into my wedding and my life, that was also around the time that I was coming to be more accepting of myself. So I think it was also just this kind of slow self journey of, yeah, it is okay that you're non-binary, and that is okay that that's who you are. And even though you've been told your entire life that you have to fit into these different boxes, like, it's okay that you don't. And so I think it was then that was like, I can do this. I want to do this.
I think for me personally, it was weird because I needed to hear permission that I can be who I want to be. And that was the biggest thing when Valerie was like, yeah, you want to cut off your hair? Just do it. Like, my love won't change around you just because now you have short hair and you're not ticking these boxes that society has told you to tick. That doesn't make you less beautiful. In my personal experience, that's what I needed permission to be a non-binary person. Although I wanted it so badly for myself, I had to hear it from someone else to say, hey, it's okay. You can be a they, them. It's fine. you know? And I think even now, I don't allow myself to say, hey, I use they, them pronouns because I feel like I'm gonna step on toes where people are gonna say she and they're gonna maybe feel upset because they forget that I'm they, them. So I make it easy for other people.
Mhm.
But in any case, this is not about me. It's about you. But I feel like experiences, like I genuinely feel like I have seen you grow so much and I'm so proud and you can be so hard on yourself. But I'm so, so proud of you. As a counselor slash
Mhm.
therapist, what would your best advice be for a person who's going through these emotions that we did go through before we actually was like, yeah, I'm happy who I am and I am a they them and I want to wear a suit and a tie and I want to marry my best friend even though like they might not be, I don't know, like straight.
That's fair. Yeah. I do want to say I definitely agree with the permission part because I don't think I said that, but I needed someone to give me the permission to be myself. And I think that's what Abigail really gave me was that permission to be myself. And so I would say like as a mental health therapist, like thinking about like, oh man, someone else going through this similar journey, what really comes to mind is being okay that all of your emotions and all of your reactions are going to be maybe complex and complicated, and you're not always going to know what your reaction is going to be. Like, I think maybe even something that could be surprising to someone is maybe there is a grief that they're going to feel
Yeah.
over just like the switches and the changes that are happening. And the grief doesn't mean that you're not stepping into who you are. It just means that, yeah, there's going to be a natural grief over any change. People have grief when they get new jobs that are amazing. And so there's going to be grief when you come more into yourself. And I think even with that, like there can be just even emotions of anger and confusion that come with it, whether you're interacting with other people or just angry. Maybe you're just angry that you didn't realize things sooner or you wish you would have known more things. And so I think it's really being kind and gentle with yourself, no matter the reaction, and knowing that any reaction that you're having or any emotion that you're having to stepping into who you are is okay and fine.
I mean, yeah, I can't say anything other than that. The grief part is it hits. When I started dressing up more non-binary and cut off my hair, there were so many people who told me, "Oh, you used to be beautiful." And
Mm.
that would struck a nerve. It's a trauma from beauty standards where I met these standards to be beautiful, and now I'm being myself. And now you saying in past tense, I used to be beautiful. That was a thing that I had to get used to as a non-binary person, especially from people who are binary, right?
Mhm.
That and I don't want to like out anyone right now. Valerie's dad that would say stuff like that, and
Mhm.
I need to acknowledge also he's a boomer. I know he doesn't want to be one, but he is.
Mhm.
Um, all right, can we dive into the tea? Can we
Sure.
talk about photographer?
Yes. Yeah,
All
sure.
right, Queen. Do
Mhm.
we wish that we had a different photographer? Because it sounds like from the beginning there was many red flags.
Mhm.
And did you not realize back then that you have other options, or it felt like this is the best option for us and we can like sort of take what it comes with?
I feel like we do wish that we had a better photographer. At the time, we felt like we had chosen the best option that we had because also and I think this is unfortunate too, because it's like we had to go based on a certain budget. And so I
Yeah.
think looking back, there is this element of, in honesty, like I think we got what we paid for sort of feeling. And I think putting more of our budget towards photography, it would have captured the day a lot better, I think, and
Yeah.
captured even just like what we wanted in the day. And I think even if we would have been able to probably like interview more photographers to see what their views were and see kind of where they were coming from, I think would have been just a better option.
Yeah. Did you get, because I know you went on a site where they have a bunch of photographers under the company's name, correct?
Mhm.
Did you get to meet your photographer beforehand?
We got to talk with them for a little bit on the phone. Since we were based in Dallas and they were based in Austin, we weren't able to meet them in person. And so a lot of it was talking with them over the phone, seeing our portfolio online and communicating that way.
Do you have like a planning call with them?
It was like a pre-planning call in a sense of, I think it was about a month or two before our wedding that we got to talk with them. But with the program that we used, a lot of the planning was done online. Like they had us kind of fill in the times that we wanted to have the photographer in different places. And that's where it felt really binary as well, as like, wait, but what if but our wedding party's together?
Yeah.
Like, how do we do this?
It's interesting because, we have our flow of things. And yes, we have a questionnaire too. Obviously, it's very non-binary. And it does ask questions like, what's the most important people you want to capture? Are there family members that you want to capture? But there isn't necessarily like this rigid timeline situation and where you want me to be. And also afterwards, we meet with our couple and then talk about the answers that they gave. And then we tell them, hey, this is not going to work because we'll need to do this, or this is going to work, but let's talk about this. So I'm wondering, like, obviously with your getting ready photos, what happened there?
I think what happened is, so at least from my point of view, it seems like the photographer was very much like, okay, we are going to stick to this timeline. And if we're off this timeline, we need to get on this timeline. And so it already felt like stress there. And so because of how we had the timeline put together, Abigail's pictures were supposed to be first. And so she went into the bridal suite where Abigail was and wanted to take pictures. And it was one of those instances where I wish like the photographer would have either checked in with me or something, or they would have been like, hey, can we do like my pictures first? Because I'm ready right now. Abigail's stressed. Can we just switch this? And there was like, no, like, nope, we have to do these
No
pictures right
communication.
now.
Which is so mind-blowing because, like, as a wedding photographer, I'm telling you, things are never going to go as planned.
Mm-hmm.
This is a wedding standard. If you have any experience, things will not go as planned. And it's just because it's life. Like, we had a wedding where the bride actually got sick. She had a stomach flu. So, like, I couldn't go in there and take all these photos because she's in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And like, instead of panicking, we spend more time with her husband upstairs, and I would send Valerie down now and then to go check up on her, see if she's okay, if she's ready for photos, like, and then obviously communicate with her, like, hey, so because we're running out of time, let's try to get these photos quickly, and then you don't look back and you're sad that there wasn't any photos. But I mean, like, even with Abigail, knowing that she felt so stressed, again, I think it was so important for your photographer to come to you and be like, hey, the vibes ain't there. Can we take a few photos of you and the wedding party, or maybe with your parents? Fill in those time gaps.
Mm-hmm.
And then ask you, and this is why the planning call is so important, because in the planning call, the photographer would have known this, but in the planning call, be like, hey, so you're her partner. How can we support her right now? Because I think a wedding photographer is way more intimate than just taking photos, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm there in this space. It's a sacred space. It's an intimate space. And if I don't invite myself as a safe space, you're going to pick it up on the photos. You're going to see that things are, the sad thing is, like, I had and I'm going off on a here now, what's new? But I had a consultation call with someone the other day, and it was for their party, their graduation party, and they started off immediately. So I don't want a photographer because I had a wedding photographer and I have a bunch of photos, but none of them I want to print. So I want to try to get a content creator now. And I was like, excuse me, ma'am, what happened? What's this trauma? And then she told me that basically she feels like her photographer was there to take photos. So she has a bunch of photos, but she doesn't have actual tangible moments that were important or documented the day of it. Photographer saw it as a moment of, I need to take a bunch of photos, and whatever comes out of it, comes out of it. As a photographer, like, they should have come to you and be like, hey, mate, let's talk about your newlywed photos, because those were interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I
But
would
it's
say,
not
like,
for me, like a sister's or sibling situation.
uh-huh.
So how did you feel in that moment?
Are you talking about when you were taking our newlywed photos?
No, y'all newlywed photos on the day of your wedding,
Oh, that
not the
felt
ones we took.
okay. Never mind. Yeah, it did feel very awkward and forced with our newlywed photos that we did take. And even I like what you said about that safety feeling because I've been in other weddings and I feel that from what you're saying of like, oh, when the photographer is really like safe and in it, like you can feel it and you just know you're like, I'm going to get some quality photos from this photographer. And so, yeah, so there wasn't that safety or that, oh, they really see us and they really
Yeah.
see what we want from a photographer.
Do you think it's just a lack of experience for them?
I wonder if it was. I think I also, one thing that didn't feel that it was clear before is that it seemed like photography was specifically like a side thing for them. Like you can have a side thing and it be like your passion and you're still like in it, but it felt like for this person it was like, oh, this is just my side gig that I do every so often.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I'm so happy we got to do more newlywed photos of y'all, and that was
Hmm.
magical, and honestly, I would love to take more photos of y'all. I'm ready for your session, but y'all need to come out here in Little Rock.
That's fair.
It's gorgeous here. But yeah, so if and again, just like we did with, giving some advice to people who are non-binary in the wedding industry, I think I would like to do this more as a general. Like when you're looking at photography and videography vendors, you said one thing you wish you did is like vetted more people, like interviewed more people. So for us, it would be a get to know you call where you see the vibes. Other than that you wished, what other tips would you say to people so that they don't necessarily feel the experience that you have had?
I would say the only other thing is, I think honestly, like if you want good photography, like it's good to pay for it. And there's gonna be good photographers out there. And so it's like it's not just something to add on. It's something to really be intentional with. And looking back, I would probably put it as like one of the more bigger budget pieces of a wedding to have that good photography, to have that connection. Along with that, make sure you really have that connection with your photographer, like you were saying.
I know that Valerie and I were also in a tight budget. I think that's so normal these days with the majority of people. It's the economy. But I remember us being ballers with our photographer because we were like, we wanted a queer photographer. And like, luckily for us, like I said, we're married in San Francisco. So we had options and we ended up choosing Veronica and she was incredible. But it is the most expensive thing, I would say, other than obviously your venue and food that comes out there. It's just sad that, you look back and we're like, we should have spent. Did you know, like off record, we revisited our pricing and stuff, and y'all could have hired us as two photographers, right? For your 8-hour day for $1,000 more. It wouldn't have not been
Huh.
doubled or tripled. It would
Uh-huh.
just be $1,000 more. And I say just 1,000 because I know what y'all spend, but like that's it.
Dang.
It's okay. We can take so much photos of you. Like I'm just saying, like I said, I'm ready to like have another session with y'all, but there's a few places I hear that is extremely affirming, and I have never been team styled shoot. I don't know if I ever want to do styled shoots, but I'm starting to change my mind. And if you and Abigail is ever into modeling, because
Uh-huh.
we need more non-binary models. Let's be honest. We
Mm-hmm.
need more non-binary models. So please write to us when you are ready to come out and visit and we'll have fun.
Sounds good.
But yeah, so I just want to quickly make sure that we talked about everything. How do you want to end this?
I guess what comes to my mind is that I think no matter what kind of wedding you want to have, make sure it's the wedding that you want to have and not the one that you feel like should be traditionally put together or anything. But make sure at the end of the day, it's like, yep, I'm proud of that.
Yes, I agree completely. It's actually a conversation Valerie and I had the other day is how proud I am of the queer community healing the wedding industry. I think the wedding industry is really broken, but I feel like we as queer people are showing up and doing the healing. We're doing the hard work, and it's because we want to do what we want to do because we know that what brings us joy and we embrace it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm very proud of you as a human being. I will always tell you this, not only as a friend, but as, just a non-binary in the community myself. I'm very proud to have seen who you are as a person and become more and more who you are. And I cannot wait to see what 2026 brings and how much you and Abigail love each other. Yeah, thank you so much for being here today. I'm sure we're going to have more podcasts where we're going to talk about maybe some trauma in the queer community, but it has been an absolute privilege. Thank you so much for sharing your heart with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us today, and hopefully you've learned something.
Yeah, if something really stuck with you today, please consider sharing it with another photographer, videographer, or creative. Make sure you hit follow and consider leaving us a review.
And if you love this chaos, please ensure that you follow us on Instagram at Hey Love Studio. This is where we share our BTS, our beautiful queer love, and other couples, and we would love to see you there.
Until next time, keep creating,
keep celebrating,
and know that, hey love, we got you.